So you have to answer your question, should I self-publish? And you do take a lot of your own responsibility to do all of those things. And what that does then is take away time from your writing. Because all that other work takes a lot of time. So if you're considering self-publishing, consider that it's going to take time away from your writing. Okay. Any questions on that part of it? Pros and cons? Anything you've observed? Maybe? Okay. We'll go on into...
First, you got to prepare a book before you, and I've hit too many buttons there. I'm button happy. Before you actually get to the point where you're going to publish a book, you got to write it first. I'm not sure who's supposed to be covering the right section, but I guess I'll go ahead. When you're going to... Writing the book's the hardest part, of course, of anything. You've got to put it together. You've got to get help. If you don't know how, what do you do? If you can't get motivated, you've got a great idea, but you just can't get involved in it. You can't sit down. You can't find time. Okay? Don't know how, join a writer's group. I'll tell you, the Diamond State Romance Office has done wonders for my writing career because I've had that interaction with other writers who've been there, done that. I've had that interaction with writers who haven't yet done that, where I've been the one helping to teach them. And that helps reinforce what I know.
A key about that joining the writers group, though, is join the right writers group for you.
Yes.
If you want to get published, or you want to do it the traditional route, or if you want to self-publish, join a group that is interested in getting published. There are a lot of writers groups out there that are just interested in
it's hobby.
In hobby. You know, it's a hobby.
And that's valid. You know,
and that's valid.
Yeah. Journals, or learn to write better letters or whatever.
Or if you're into poetry and you don't care if you publish or not, that's fine. Join that. But if you want to get published, and if you want to do the self-publishing thing even, join a writers group that is eager to publish, because you want that synergy that you get from everybody else.
And a plug for this group: you don't have to be a romance writer to join a group like this and get something from it, because story is story.
Right.
And we can teach you to do stories. My sister, she writes for Harlequin, she writes intrigues, but guess what? They're not true romances, they're more mystery. So you learn skills that you can use across any genre joining a group like this.
Yeah, most commercial fiction is just that. It's commercial fiction. It's designed to sell. Whether you have a hero and a heroine who fall in love and end up happily ever after, or you have a hero who blows up something in the end and disappears in his, I don't know, what does James Bond drive? You know, I mean, it doesn't matter. Commercial fiction is commercial fiction.
And joining a group like the Diamond State Romance Authors, okay, so we're romance writers, and that's okay. You will learn the business, and that's important. The business of how to write. You will learn the business of how to do the business, because there's marketing involved, there's how to get an agent, all that kind of thing. You will learn that from an organization like Diamond State Romance Authors, which is a part of the Romance Writers of America, and you have to be a part of it.
Romance Writers of America is 10,000 members strong.
There's a reason for that. Lots.
There is a reason for that.
Yeah, they have a lot to offer to a writer.
If you can't, well, you also can take lessons. There's a lot of online classes, and a lot of them are associated with chapters like us, or there are collections of authors who want to give back. Like some of us are members of something called Roses Colored Glasses. We teach online classes. Take lessons. And again, it doesn't matter if it's from a romance group or from a mainstream fiction group. The basics of writing are the same in commercial fiction. If you can't get motivated, sprinting. Sprinting is something that we do quite frequently. I used to do quite frequently until the day job ate up my life. But sprinting is a very short type of intense writing session where you can go for 30 minutes and you sprint. You write as fast as you can.
No interruptions.
You throw the inner editor
in person. You can also do it online.
Yeah, we do a lot of it online. But you throw the inner editor out and you just write. You can always edit what you've written. But if you have a blank page, you can't edit it. So,
but you can't edit crap.
Yeah, you can edit crap, but you can't edit a blank page. So sprint, just write as fast as you can. And you can do it yourself. It's all you need is a timer. I got a clock on here. You set that thing and it goes off. I do half an hour and it buzzes and I say, okay, time to take a breath, start all over again. NaNoWriMo. Right now, November is called National Novel Writing Month. And a lot of people get involved in NaNoWriMo. The goal is to write 50,000 words in 30 days. That's a lot of words. And again, you go the inner editor route and you just write. And in December, you edit. Okay? So there's things that you can do to get motivated, and there are things you can do to learn how to write. Okay, so now we mentioned editing. Why do you want to edit a book? Okay? Now, I mean, my mama loved my book. Why do I need to edit it? It's perfect according to mama. But you've got to think about a book to the reader is like it's your first impression. This is what they're going to look at. This is what they're going to go, oh, interesting. I like this. Or, oh, this is a piece of crap. Think of it as a job interview with a new employer. You got one chance for a first impression. And keep in mind, if you're going a traditional route of publishing, an editor's a reader too. They're going to have the same impressions. So this is your first impression. You want it to be the best you can have it be. You want it to be as error-free as possible. A lot of this business is repeat customers. Most people do not make a fortune on their first book. Shades of Grey and Twilight aside. Most people don't make a fortune on their 10th book or their 20th book or their 100th book. But they can make a living with repeat customers. As long as these people keep coming back to buy your books, you're good. If you have somebody that finds you on your 10th book and they love your work, they'll go back and buy books 1 through 9.
And word of mouth.
And word of mouth will either make you or break you, because the internet, you get a bad review on a blog somewhere, you may never get another sale to that particular group of readers. So you really want to be careful about make sure you get it edited, because you want to build the sales. Or, or you don't. I mean, some people write because they just want to write and they just want to publish, and that's valid for them. But if you're in this to be in the business of writing, you want to build sales. So editing. Okay. What to look for. You learned a lot of things in high school or junior high school English. I don't remember when you did that because it's been a while for me. But you learned about things like punctuation and grammar. That's important. But there are nuances in commercial fiction that go beyond punctuation and grammar. Some of these things are like passive and active voice. All right? A passive sentence would be like, the presentation was written by me last night. Which it was, which is I have notes. A better way to say that, a more concise way to say that, would be to say that I wrote the presentation last night. Why go into all that was, right? But it's a nuance. It's something that you learn. Even more is things like show versus tell. You'll hear this a million times in every writing group. Well, what does show versus tell mean? Okay, this is tell. Anne was thrilled with her first book deal. I just told you what Anne was. I told you what she was feeling. But did you really see her being happy? Well, how about Anne was thrilled with her first book deal, and Snoopy danced around the room, waving her first book contract in the air as she whooped with joy. I mean, it gives you a visual, okay, of Snoopy dancing as you celebrate your first contract. And believe me, I tried that when I sold my first book. I hurt something, but it was worth it. You have to Snoopy dance when you sell something. Implied, unnecessary. Again, this is something that you don't think about. He sat down. Well, where exactly did you expect him to go when he sat? Down is implied, the direction. So we're talking little things that tighten up the prose, that make it more concise and quicker read. And a lot of times, people are looking for a quicker read, a fast read. They don't want to be interrupted. Choppy, sloppy, confusing prose, it pulls the reader out and they go, okay, wait a minute, who's doing what? Let me back up. So this is things you've got to look for. Point of view. This is one of those that I have a whole entire presentation on point of view. I'm not talking first person, third person, second person, or omniscient. All those are very valid things you have to choose when you write. Do I want to write using I? Do I want to write using he and she? That's valid. But this type of point of view is whose head are we in? If you're in the hero's head, he can't know what the villain is thinking. His arch nemesis could be ready to pull a knife or whatever, but he can't know that. So if you're writing in that hero's head, you can't tell the reader what the arch nemesis is doing either, or thinking. You can describe what he's doing, you can describe his visual cues, his face, his body language, but you can't tell the reader what he's thinking if you keep your point of view. This is very subtle. There's a lot of subtlety to it, but keep in mind that it's like blinders. You're going to watch just what he can see, what he can hear, what he can taste, what he can feel. Right? And then this thing called head hopping, if you try to jump from point of view to point of view to get your point across, it distracts the reader as well. You don't want to do that too frequently. You do it occasionally because you do want to switch. But if you do it too frequently, it's head hopping. And the reader's like, okay, now who's talking about it? Again, don't confuse your readers.
A good rule of thumb is to stay in a certain point of view for a full scene.
Yeah.
Now, there are a lot of writers out there that will head hop from one point of view to another. But
there are a lot of writers who get away with
Yeah.
head hopping. But most of them have been writing for years, and the style has changed. I find that Nora Roberts head hops, but she's Nora Roberts, and Nora Roberts can pretty much do whatever she wants.
The main problem with point of view when you do head hop is that the reader wants to become invested in the emotions of the person that they're reading about. And if you drag them out of that person whom they're starting to get, that intense feeling of connection into somebody else's, well, guess what? They've got to start all over again building that.
So, like I said, point of view we could cover for a week and still not cover all the nuances. But it's something you watch for. It's something you need to learn. And these are all things that you're self-editing at this point. You're looking at things that you want to fix before your manuscript goes any further. Of course, we still need to get back to the what we learned in high school English. Gerunds, misplaced modifiers, grammar, punctuation. I have issues with grammar, I really do, which is why I like having an editor. They catch the things that I forget about. But a lot of times, some of your grammar and some of the rules need to be broken. You're not going to have a Texas rancher talking in very formal sentence structure. I mean, for him to come, maybe if he was an English butler in a past life, I don't know. But he's not going to have a very formal style of language. And if you're deep into his point of view, you might not have your narrative as well as your dialogue in that strict, formal type of writing. You want to have it where it sounds like the character. You don't want to go too far. But you do need to refresh yourselves on the rules before you try to break them. It's just good sense. All right, so what do we do about how do you get some of these? These are your more options that you can have. Get into a critique group. Again, this is something that if you get into a good writing group, they usually have a critique group. You swap pages, usually not an entire manuscript. It can be slow. I've been in critique groups where your limit was 15 pages and you only did the critique, you only met to critique online every 2 weeks. So that could take you a long time, and you're not allowed to do things like make the font this tiny. So you can squeeze more into those 15 pages. They usually have rules on what font you can use and what size to make it fair.
Oh, and if you're looking for an online critique group, we run one through rosescoloredglasses.com. And
Great.
Right there on the homepage, the link. And it's every 2 weeks, that weekend, we run a critique.
And you end up with, in these critique groups, you can end up with someone who doesn't know any more than you do. But they can read it with an eye as a reader. And tell you things like, I think I got these out of order, but beta readers. Beta readers are people who are going to read it for the flow. They're not necessarily looking for your grammar mistakes. They're looking to see whether this is a fast read, a good read, it keeps them engrossed, it doesn't pull them out, it doesn't drive them. And if you're not familiar with all of these things, as a new member to a critique group, you tell them what you think. Okay, you just go in and you read the pages and tell them what you think. You may not understand the grammar and all the, we have a friend of ours who She loves like sentence structure and grammar stuff. I think she's just a little strange, but she's a very good editor. Actually, she's the editor of the anthologies that we put together for the Turpentine Creek. But she loves that sort of stuff, and I'm going, that's why I use her as an editor, because I don't. But as a beta reader or in a critique group, you always have something to contribute, even if it's informal training.
And the more you do the critique group, the more you will be picking up stuff,
Yes.
and you will start contributing more
Yes.
and more. So don't be afraid to join a critique group. You will provide value, and
Yes.
you will get value out of it.
And even in Rose's Colored Glasses, I'm very careful about, we have published writers, we have people who are very close to being published, so they have a lot of skills. And we have brand newbies, and I always try to match every single person